To many, moving to a new school is alarming. The fact that you have to leave a place that you have made comfortable is quite frightening. You have to leave your old friends and are forced between choosing loneliness or making new friends. At the young age of 8, I had faced something like this. However, moving to a new school gave me new opportunities. It suddenly made me realize who I wanted to be, and funnily enough, made me realize that I had no real friends in my previous school. It wasn't until I moved to a public school that I made connections to people I would continue to talk to. Just Because is an original show that never showed me any of this. In fact, I knew of this long before even watching Just Because. However, the show does a good job underlining certain points in my life that helped me further understand what I felt and how the show appealed to me. The original anime follows the character of Etta, a soon-to-be college student who just recently moved back into Tokyo. He is reunited with one of his middle school friends, and when it happens, it cuts to a monologue. The monologue describes how the two friends would plan to talk on the phone when Etta moved out of town, but after the first month, they stopped texting. It soon became hard for both of them to text and message each other. As time continued forward, their talks halted and never resumed until that very moment. Back in my middle school days, I took band. I played the saxophone and had a very close friend who played the flute. We would often text or Skype each other and talk about various topics ranging from random shows to just ranting. It came to a point where we would listen to each other and provide an outlet for venting and help. To me, it was a new relationship that I was happy to be in. The only other person to have this effect on me is my brother. My friend and I would continue to have this relationship and bond for my entire band career. Once high school hit, I quit the band entirely. I left in pursuit to find something more enjoyable. I would soon realize that that decision was the biggest decision I would make. Just before high school, our conversations became talks about classes, but once school started, our conversations became a ghost town. Our messages were like tumbleweeds that still stayed around and leftover buildings that remained. We still texted each other, but rarely. The move from using Skype to Discord didn't help either. As I grew older and I moved forward in life, the once bustling messages came to a full stop. No longer was it a ghost town. It was history. These messages were now merely remnants of a forgotten town. You could no longer see plants, animals, or any sort of structure in sight. Of course, this is figuratively speaking. However, a glimmer of hope still stood as recently we started talking again. It wasn't much, but the little messages made me happy. As cliche as it may seem, being able to talk to someone who I had fond memories talking to made me happy. It brought me back to a time when I had less stress and worries. An important thing to note is that this isn't anime. Unlike Just Because, our small talk wasn't something that revitalized our whole friendship to a new level. Our conversations are only small talk, nothing more to it. Many people I've talked to talked about this fabled you lose all your high school friends once you leave for college phenomenon. I don't think that this is true nowadays. However, I was childish to understand that people closest to me can leave at any moment's notice. Just because you have friends, it doesn't mean time can't affect them. Just like Etta and Haruto's text messages, a friendship can end abruptly. It can end without leaving a reminder telling you to revive it. It came to me as a surprise when my friend who had helped me through a rough time in my life left me. This occurred not only once, but multiple times with other old friends. Though I consider him a friend, Ryan from the Ikigai podcast has a brother who I used to hang out a lot with. Due to time and the change of personalities on both sides, we grew apart. Even though we barely talked to each other, we still recognized each other, and he even came over with Ryan to watch me, Brian, and Un play some Yakuza 0. However, my most prevalent memories of these sort of friendships is about band and how I lost that one friend I had. Sometimes I think back and I think I should have stayed in band during my high school years. Some part of me knew I could have saved my relationship with my friend and kept this status quo. But deep down, I know I made the right decision. In all honesty, none of my actions are my fault. I just did what I wanted to do, but of course that came with a cost. At this time, I'm very content with where I am, and I have no doubts about any of the decisions I made when I was young. At that time, I was just too late to realize that I was losing something I would miss for a long time. As the show continues, Etta realizes that his middle school crush is going to be in his high school. He knows that she likes his friend Haruto. Haruto, on the other hand, has feelings for another girl called Morikawa. This cliche love triangle may seem off-putting at first, but through character development and interactions with one another, it creates a cohesive story. Though Etta knows his crush likes someone else, we still see Etta continue to push for a relationship with his crush. I relate to this because you really can't move on until you get closure. Even though Picture Girl, Komiya, is awesome and a good candidate for Etta, he chooses not to like her because he doesn't have his closure. As seen in episode 5 during the cafe scene, his middle school crush, Natsumi, is still holding on to her feelings towards Haruto. She hasn't had closure and has conflicted feelings for both Haruto and Etta. On the other hand, Komiya is able to rush towards Etta as she has no feelings holding her back. It is obvious that those two are close and have a deep connection from the viewer standpoint. Komiya and Etta have good chemistry, and the interactions with each other are something seen with only good friends. Their banter and even the plot point of how Etta is Komiya's saving grace is quite emotional. The show itself is very self-aware about this as well. I point this out to help people know that I'm not ignorant to why some think that Natsumi isn't the best choice. Many can get confused with how one can like someone then easily move on to another person. People can call her petty, people can call her ridiculous, some might even call her a self-insert or even call the story straight out a fan fiction. Some of these comments are made rightfully so, and I'm too lazy to argue or can't even argue against them. That is not the point I'm trying to make. Many aspects of a good anime are subjective, and whether you can relate to a character is up to you. That isn't to say that all characters are good and well written. While I'm on this tangent, I would like to address shipping communities. Shipping communities are another beast, and frankly, I'm not a big fan of them. That doesn't mean I hate everybody who is in a shipping community, I just think that the idea of it is bad. Some shipping communities promote a lot of bad ideas. This can range from forcing or influencing someone that there is bad writing, and it can create a toxic fan base that can fight just because of a subjective thought. And to me, that is just something I don't want to be a part of. But back to the topic at hand, I like both Natsumi and Komiya for a lot of reasons. However, my own life reflects Natsumi on such an emotional level that I understand why she wants to pursue Etta. The reason is not just because she can, but more along with the fact that she now realizes something she has missed. I know some may think that it is weird to switch lovers right after moving on from another, but I also understand that point of view. It is realistic in the fact that you can move on so that you can find new love. For some, it's really quick, for others, it may take time. I want to save my perspective about this topic for June, as I have planned to discuss this further in the Ikigai Studios channel, but I want to briefly summarize and explain why Just Because is a show that is very special to me. A good anime is different from person to person. The idea behind a good anime also comes with the idea that one's personal life has also affected your relationship with an anime. For me, Just Because created an atmosphere where I could relate to a character on a personal level, that character being Natsumi. I want to quote her because I truly believe that this single quote made me realize why Natsumi resonated with me so much. I don't really know anymore. I thought I was elated. Ever since that day, I felt refreshed. It was like being done with homework. Having a first crush really is this sort of high. For me, I felt like I was on top of the world. Having someone to like and knowing that my feelings would or could get reciprocated back was something that kept me on my feet. As time went on, I felt this feeling waver. I still had feelings for this person, but to ask that person out was a completely different story. As years flew by, I realized it was time I finally said it. I confessed to said person and it felt good. Just like Natsumi said, I felt like I was done with a chore. I was done holding back my feelings. I was done with the secret and weight on my shoulder. Now the rest is history. But at that moment, and what Natsumi, but more specifically what I felt, was that I was too late to realize what love was and too late to lift that weight off. As time flew by and I realized that my life wasn't just confined to mundane tasks, I soon found myself immersed in what I'm doing today. As Just Because continues, we also see this sort of unusual passion with Komiya. Though we don't know why her passion for photography is strong, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. Something that I find interesting is that this photography club and the members within it are not shown too often. If they are for the sake of Eta's storyline or for comedy. We are never given a deep dive into many questions about Koimiya and her club. Obviously, this can be seen as a flaw. Many shows can fall into this pit hole purely due to not having a source material to follow. This flaw of not having a concrete flow and plan for a show is something that can make or break an entire show. This is what makes me dislike some shows, but nevertheless, I really love when original shows are able to be really good. Despite just because having this flaw, as you can see, I love this show. To me, it's not about seeing this flaw, but how it is able to avoid it. Komiya's character is very interesting in the fact that she is not only relatable, but also a character that doesn't need information to be relatable. One of these is the fact that her passion is undeniably contagious. As seen with Eta, he is easily pulled into her life. To me, the power of passion and the overuse of it can make it underwhelming. However, as a person who purely made videos such as these through pure passion, I can relate to Komiya's weird yet not so weird obsession with passion. Though you may not be the best in an activity, something about it can just draw you in. As relatable and awesome as Komiya is, there is one thing I can't relate to. This thing isn't a trait I hate about her. No, it's something that I envy a lot. Her willpower to fight against her sponsor to close her club and get the attention of Eta so that she can keep her club open is something else. She is consistently trying her best to get her club to run independently. She fights off so many difficulties, from ones we see on screen to even the off-screen problems. This willpower was something I always wanted. Early in my life, I had a small passion about making anime and making YouTube videos. This was back in middle school years. When I was in 7th grade, I started to make videos on an old YouTube channel. They were cringe, but it still felt amazing to produce and edit content. To me, it was a dream come true. Just like many of my stories, it didn't end up like that at all. When I entered high school, I completely stopped making YouTube videos and privated all my old content. I was demotivated and quit as soon as my time became more focused on school and just playing games. I was too lazy to record and I was too lazy to edit. All of my old videos that weren't posted on YouTube are now long gone, lost in a backup that is now broken. All that is left are old videos that I've made for YouTube. Though it is sad and I deeply regret not backing up the videos somewhere else, that is not what made me regret my decision to stop uploading. What made me most sad was seeing other young YouTubers grow up to become what I wanted to be when I was a teen. People like Tommy Innit are now famous and started when they were young. People like Komiya had this willpower to just keep going no matter what stopped her. Well, I just stood there and let life take me away from my passion. Watching my dream all disappear and losing all the progress I could have had is saddening. I should not hold on to that regret. If I do, I will forget what got me here. I must have the willpower such as Komiya's to look at the future and not the past. The past defines me but does not lock me into the stage I am in. I can break free and blossom into a champion. I have a lot of regrets, but I will always say that I will never go back to redo them. That is true and I won't ever forget it. In the end, Komiya showed me that I wanted to make anime and Ikigai Studios, because ever since I did this, I felt like I've become a better person and better mentally. When I was a kid, I was too late to make momentum and get a head start. But I was even more late to realize that I had passion that I could grip onto and motivate me to have a commitment. Just Because is an original show that I fell in love with. Though some may see it as mediocre, I didn't. Just Because showed me I was too late to realize many things. I was too late to catch any of it. But instead of being sad that I missed those chances, I'm happy that I got to realize it. So if you're wondering and want to know a reason why I love this show, well, just look at the title. I love it just because.